Hello, my loves. I am sorry I am fashionably late. I was attempting, we're going to try one more time, to go live on Instagram as well. But with Mercury retrograde and all of the crazy energies that are happening, we are not having the best of luck. And this will give everybody a moment to hop on. And so as you're hopping on, say hello. Let me know where you're watching from. Let me know how you're doing, how your energy is, how you're feeling. If you feel called at any time during this broadcast to share it, if you feel that someone needs to hear these words, hit that share button, share it over Messenger into groups, anywhere you can. And we're just going to end the Instagram video because, hi Liz, because apparently we're not meant to go live on Instagram today. So it was the first time trying to do it in all the places, right? I already do it on Facebook and YouTube. All right. For those who are new to me, I am Johanna Burkhardt. I am a multidimensional teacher, healer, and channel. And I consider myself multidimensional versus spiritual because we are here not to just connect with the spirit, but also to learn to be human. There is multiple aspects of self that we need to recognize and to account for. And so I no longer resonated after doing this work that I'm going to be sharing with you here today, after diving into parts work last year for myself and really bringing all those aspects of self together. I realized I'm not just a spiritual teacher. I don't resonate with New Age teachings. There's so much more than the spiritual realm that we're here to experience, and it's for a reason. So I have reclassified myself as a multidimensional teacher, healer, channel. I'm an author. And my mission is to create clear channels. My mission is also to teach the teachers and to really create a pathway, a guide to go first to show the way for the new earth. Okay. And so I have created many ways of doing that, right? I have small membership communities. I have a self-mastery academy where you get the master's degree in you. I no longer do private sessions. I do private mentorship from time to time, but my soul is really calling me to take the grander scale to reach the more people. So I have developed all these beautiful ways and techniques, and there's lots and lots of free resources. If you're not watching me from YouTube, you can head over to youtube.com/Johanna Burkhardt. And hey, Amy, and dive into all the freaking resources I have, because I love to give to you guys. So today's going to be no different. Today, we're going to be talking about reclamation. Reclamation. We are going to be talking about reclaiming and reconciling those parts and pieces of self. This is also known as parts work. It's also known as shadow work. It's also known as past life or soul retrieval. It's also known as shadow work, integration work. And that just shows you how many different fields and niches there are to this work, right? And how many different healers or teachers or guides you could hire to do all the different things. But what if you didn't need to do that? What if you did not need to hire all those different people? What if there are processes that you can put in place that handles all aspects? So that is something that I have created. And I want to back up and share a little bit about my journey, what parts work even is. What does it mean to reclaim? Why do we need to reconcile? What am I even reconciling? Because this is the thing that most people get confused about. There's so much information out there. It can be super overwhelming. So I want to first invite you just to take a deep breath with me. Drop your shoulders. And do it again, breathing in. Dropping your shoulders. And one more time. Just bringing all your conscious awareness into this moment with me, okay? This is going to be a conversation between us. me and you, we're going to have this conversation, and I'm going to describe to you what parts work is. I'm going to describe to you different aspects of it. And then I'm going to go in and share some of my personal stories that are vulnerable. But we learn through storytelling, right? We can learn through example. We learn through someone else's perspective, from hindsight, from seeing it from an outside view. And so I want to give you guys something tangible that you can recognize in yourself, first and foremost. So that's what we're going to do. So what is parts work? What does it mean to reclaim fragments of your soul? I'm going to start off by saying the healthiest person in the world, the person who had the most perfect childhood, that had nothing bad happen to them, literally born with what the humans like to call a silver spoon in their mouth, life handed to them, life perfect, is going to have 22 fragments of self. 22 minimum. 22. There's going to be 22 different personalities inside of you. I want you to just grasp that thought for a second. Now, add on, if you have had any hurt in your life, any trauma in your life, any major belief systems, programs, patterns, things that you observed that became a part of who you are. Now you can start to multiply those parts of yourself. We have been conditioned as a society by the psychological industry, the mental health industry, that multiple personalities are a bad thing, right? And I am not saying that multiple personality or disorder doesn't exist, right? When somebody reaches that level where they are identifying and completely unidentifying with the other aspects, right? Where they're switching personalities and that personality is taking the driver's seat. That's completely different. That's taking this to an extreme. But what it's done for us is made us afraid to have contrasting opinions within self, having different versions of ourselves. But the truth is, we all have them. You have the voices inside of your head, the voices that bully you, the voices that love you, the voices that tell you the fear, the voices that tell you the doubt, the voices that tell you you have to censor yourself, the voices that tell you you have to show up differently when you go to this person's house. You have to, when you step on a stage, you have to act a certain way. When you become somebody in this industry, you have to be perfect and you have to become a certain way. And when you're talking to 3D people, right, or people who are unaware, let's just say, is that's what they are. They're not 3D, they're just unaware. We have to show up a certain way. We allow an aspect of ourself to lead that conversation, to lead that way. And there's nothing wrong with this, you guys. I want to kill the taboo that this means there's something wrong with you. In fact, on the radio show, we talked to a woman that took a plant medicine called iboga. And she said that this medicine was like the holy grail of plant medicine, right? Forget ayahuasca, forget combo, forget all of those other ones, forget just DMT. It's a matter of you taking this one iboga and going through and over like a 3-day period, reconciling all of your lives, reconciling all those parts and pieces of you and becoming whole. And what she said was the voices in her head disappeared. And I kid you not, the first thing that popped into my head when she said that was, well, that's freaking boring. Could you imagine not having any conversations in your head, not having that person to bounce things off of with, to have that contrasting opinion? Isn't that why we came here? Was to learn through contrast, was to learn to evolve ourselves? Like that was the whole point. And so she just went through an expedited version of that, right? I actually think there's value in doing it the other way, doing it in the way that I'm doing it. So we have these aspects of self, these versions of us. Another way I like to show, there's many different ways of which a fragment can split. So when we have a split in our consciousness, right, in that moment, something happened. And so we literally separate that part of ourselves, that part of our consciousness, and push it away or repress it down, right? Or bury it, whatever you want to call it, reject it, deny it, repress it. We do that because that is no longer safe. What that aspect of you did is no longer safe. Okay. And so this can happen in trauma. This can happen during abuse. It can happen during rape. It can happen during emotional abuse. It can happen when your mom tells you you can't eat right now. So it isn't always about trauma, but trauma is the biggest culprit of fragmentation in your soul. And let me give you an example, because I was guilty of this. I'm sure if you're a parent, you can tell me if you've done this too. When your kid walks up to you and says, Mom, I'm hungry. And maybe they're 3 years old or 4 years old. And they're, Mom, I'm hungry. Mom, I'm hungry. And you're looking around, it's 2 o'clock. You know you're going to be cooking dinner at 5 o'clock. And so you say to your child, you can't eat right now. It's not dinner time. It's not 5 o'clock. Okay. And then this happens again, right? It happens again. The next day, the child comes to you, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Mom, I'm hungry. Mom, I'm hungry. Nope, can't eat yet. It's not 5 o'clock. After enough of those times, that child is going to separate. It's going to create a split in your consciousness, and that child's going to push that instinct, that aspect of self that says, trust me when I'm hungry. And it's going to push it away and says, I can't trust you because every time I try to get food, when you say something, I'm told to look outside of me. I am told to go look at a clock, or I'm told to ask my mom. I can't just eat when my body knows it's hungry. But here's the thing, especially children, when they come in, they're still super close to their higher self. They're super close to source. So they actually know better than the parent when they want to eat, when they want to sleep, when they need to use the bathroom. They may not be able to articulate it yet, but they have their core instincts in place. But right away, early on in our childhood, what are we taught? We are taught to ignore our intuition. We are told to ignore our instincts that say, when my body is hungry, I can get food. Now, there are going to be children out there that are going to have a hard time with regulating it, and there is going to need to be a balancing boundaries. But it's a matter of you recognizing that there is a pattern here, that maybe my child needs to eat at 2. Maybe my child's not meant to eat at 5 o'clock, because we've been conditioned that we all have to do things a certain way. And that's just BS. I'm just going to say it. We are not living by we're not sheeps. We're all being told to do things a certain way over and over and over and over and over again. And we just keep doing them. And we want to break the status quo and realize that some children, some people eat at different times, sleep at different times, operate differently. And when we go against that, we're actually separating from our intuition, and we're creating fragments of self. Okay. And I wanted to share that with you because not everything is going to be trauma-based. Not everybody's had a terrible childhood. Not everybody's been through hell and high water. And so if that's not you, there is still going to be programming, patterning, conditioning that was put in place that creates fragments in your consciousness. This is also going to show up as inner conflict. So if you ever have had this desire to do something, but you're like, oh, I don't know if I should do that. I don't know if I'm going to get it right. Is this right? Is this right? Which decision is right? You're at a war with your intuition. Everything is going to be at war with the soul, with the intuition, with the higher knowing, because your body, your soul knows what it wants. It knows where it needs to go. It knows what it needs to do. It knows the right way. It knows the higher path. It knows the higher understanding. It's when we allow the human aspects to come in and conflict with that, because there's a part of ourselves that we repressed away, we pushed away, we denied, that is screaming at us, see me, hear me, I'm over here, you're not listening to me, I don't want to go that way. I don't want to go that way. So then the higher self, you're like, no, I'm not going to hear that. Nope, we're not going to listen to that fear. Nope, we're not going to entertain these silly doubts. We know better. We've been on this journey long enough. You know you do it. So what do? You listen to higher self and you're like, let's go. And you go and you go and you're running and you're galloping, and all of a sudden it's like, whoosh, snap back. Why? You left the rest of the parts of you behind. And those are the heavy ones. So of course, it's going to springboard your butt back. And so you're like, why do I keep going 10 steps forward and 25 steps back? Well, you decided to not listen to all the parts and pieces of yourself. You have fragments in your consciousness. You have alternate identities and personalities that are like, Nope, I'm not going. We're not doing this. I'm scared. I don't trust you. I don't believe you. And that's the key right there. I hope you picked that up. Trust. And why everything I do and teach brings you back to trusting yourself, right? Those aspects of you, your ego, your inner children, don't trust you. They don't trust you to drive the bus. They don't trust that you know where you're going. They don't trust that you are safe. They don't trust that you know what you're doing. They don't trust that you're going to figure it out. They don't trust that you're not going to fall on your face and fail. They don't trust that you're actually going to get it right this time. They don't believe you because you have a history of ignoring those parts and pieces of yourself. I was the queen of this shit. I was the queen of this. Here I was, a teacher, a healer, someone who was guiding the light, talking about being the change, talking about all of these things. And I was sitting in this stupid loop going around and around and around this same issue. And I kept going, why am I keep going around this again? Here we go again. I'm getting back on the bus. I'm going around the same crap all over again. And every time I would hit the crossroads, that crossroads where you have that opportunity, right? That pattern is going to come where it's going to either loop back around or it's going to go and make a new loop or it's going to start again, right? You come to that crossroads. Do I want to go for the comfortable, familiar, same old routine, the same old response, the same old reaction, the same old thing? Or do I want to take a new way? Do I want to go the uncertain way? Do I want to sit in this emotional upheaval? Do I want to listen to this part of myself? And most people, though they think they're doing this, they're actually doing this a new way. They're doing the same thing over again, masked as something else. And so that's what was happening in me. And I had to figure out, I'm like, what is going on? I've done the inner child work. I've done the shadow work. What am I missing? What I realized is there's way more aspects of self than just the inner children and just the shadow aspects, right? Our ego, we'll call it. There are aspects of self that were fragmented before we were birthed. There was trauma created in the womb. There could have been trauma created in the delivery process. There could have been trauma in the crib before your maligda was recording. There could have been trauma so bad that you left your body and your maligda stopped recording. So you have no conscious memory of it. You don't have memory of a past life where you may have been responsible or you may have had something happen to you. Or maybe you aren't yet connected or aware of a galactic aspect of you that maybe was at battle or had something happen to it or was responsible for something or whatever. There's so many more aspects of self that we're not aware of. And so I had to come up with a way to identify these aspects, then reclaim them, and then reconcile them. So when we're reclaiming a piece of ourselves, what we're doing is we are becoming aware of it. We know everything about it. We're in communication with it. It knows that we know it's there. We're not ignoring it. We're not denying it. We're not pretending that that fear isn't there. We're not pretending that that doubt isn't there or that that hurt isn't there. We are eye to eye. We've made contact. Okay? When you're reconciling it, right? When you're reclaiming it, you're bringing it closer to you. So think about this scenario that I know everybody's heard this, right? Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Why do you do that? Why would you keep your enemies closer? You keep your enemies closer because if you know what their next move is going to be, if you know how they operate, right? Then you can relax into your body and you know how this person operates. You now know how to navigate it, right? You have to do the same thing with parts of yourself. You have to do this within your consciousness and not just with the inner children, right? But also the protector personalities. Yes, we have protector personalities. People like to classify ego as just ego, but ego is the human consciousness. It's the human self. And that in itself splits and fragments. Okay. So it's not, you're never just dealing with your ego. You're dealing with aspects of your ego. So when you're reclaiming it, you're bringing it closer to you. You're getting to know it. You're really seeing it. You're really understanding it on another level. You're befriending it. You're not in resistance to it. You're not ignoring it. You're not dreading that, conversation with it. You've made peace with it. You're like, I may not like you, but I do love you. I may not like you, but I'm at peace with you. Like, we can chill. We can be homies. So we want to reclaim these aspects of self. So we have protector personalities, and those are, the mom and dad wounds that come in, right? If you had a mom or a dad or a teacher or somebody who was your disciplinarian, or maybe was a bully in your life, like, you have protector personalities. So a part of you was vulnerable, a part of you was getting hurt, a part of you was feeling pain. And so you literally fragmented that piece away, and instead you created, so you repressed and tucked away that inner child that was being hurt and is feeling that pain. And you said, I will never let that happen again. You will never feel this pain again. And so you develop a complete and utter consciousness known as a protector personality. So when you come into the same situation, right, there really isn't a lion that's about to attack you, but the energy of it is the same, where you walk into a space and you feel like you could be attacked. You feel vulnerable, as if you were standing in front of a lion that sees you as lunch. So while there's really no threat, the energetics remain the same. So you walk into that space and your protector personality, she comes right in like a wrecking ball, and she's like, we're here. We will not let you get hurt. And so you start behaving a certain way. You start saying certain things. Your demeanor changes, right? So we have protector personalities. We have fear personalities. We have inner children. We have ancestral personalities, where we are connecting with what we would call past lives. And I put that in air quotes because, as for most of you should know, and if you don't, you'll know now, the 1260 timing frequency that humans created is just that. Humans created it. Time doesn't really exist. It's fluid. Everything, your past lives are all happening simultaneously. You are also, there's a version of you in other timelines that are running simultaneously, right? So there's all of this is happening all at once. Your future selves, your past selves, it's already happened. It's already done. This is a slow motion replay where you have alternate endings. Okay. So knowing that, right, knowing that information, you have this awesome opportunity, right? You have all of these aspects of self. So when you have the ancestral ones, you're connecting into an energetic alignment that is very similar to, like, say, the fall of Atlantis. All right. This is something I actually have already recorded the first 2 modules of a course I'm going to be sharing with you, but this is so fresh because I just recorded this. But right now, where we are in this time, this is very similar to the fall of Atlantis. So there's a lot of people that were a part of the fall of Atlantis. There was a lot of people who were wounded and experienced the victimology, right? Being the victim of the fall of Atlantis. And so these types of energies are really being activated inside of us. And we're taking what's happening to a whole nother personal level, because it's a personal attack and trigger on ourselves. We actually feel like we are re-experiencing this again, or we're afraid of what's coming because it's a similar energy. Okay. So there can be situations like that. You could have had lives in Egypt, right? You could have had lives where you were a vampire, where you were a person who did human trafficking. You could have had lives where you were into pedophilia. You could have had lives where you were the abuser in a relationship. You could have had lives where you were somebody who was put into a position of power and screwed up. And now you're like, oh my God, I don't want to be responsible for anybody. I don't want to step into the light. I don't want to lead the way. I'm going to screw it up again. You know what I mean? These are the things that happen. So you connect to those things, right? And you can also connect to the other aspects of you, the angelic aspects, the times where you might have been a part of the Thoth collective, right? Which is also part of the Archangel Michael collective. You could have been a part connecting with a Pleiadian or an Arcturian or an Alpha Centaurian, right? You could have been connected to these aspects. And so there's all these fragments of self that are out there. And our job is to reclaim them and reconcile. And when we reconcile it, what we're doing is we're bringing it into neutrality. So a lot of times you'll hear people say ego death, but here's what happens. There's never an actual ego death, you guys. You're only integrating an aspect of self. So let me share it to you like this. I'm someone who've lost a lot of people in my life. I've watched a lot of people die in front of me. And one thing that I've noticed is this. A few days before they're going to die, before they're going to cross, right? Before they're going to leave their physical body, they get better. They get better. They are happier. They have energy again. They have vibrancy. Maybe they're eating. Maybe they're laughing. And now you have this sense of hope. You have this sense of hope, right? Why? Because right before something is to die, there's this rush of energy. All of the life force energy comes rushing in. It comes rushing into that aspect. Same if we take it into the super micro inside of yourself, right? Every cell in your body is an aspect of you. Not to the degree that we're talking about, but as a micro to help you understand. So if every aspect of you, every cell is an aspect of you, and then a group of cells gets together and makes an organ, that organ, let's say your liver, has its own consciousness. All right. It has its own conscious collective. And these are when you run into the good medical mediums, right? Like I dabble in medical mediumship, but you get the ones that's their niche because they are super in tune with communicating with the aspects of the collectives within the body, right? The organs or the tissues or the bones, right? It creates that. And then when you look at the macro, you go way zoom out, right? Consciousness itself was, let's just say it was a ball of energy. And then it thought the word I, fragmented into infinite pieces. It said, oh, I have to go now experience myself and understand myself. So I'm going to create infinite pieces of myself so I can see all sides of myself, and creates these infinite number of soul streams. And that soul stream also will fragment, and aspects of it will go into the human body, right? This is why we have twin flames. This is why we have twin rays. This is why we have soul mates, why we have doppelgangers, where you're like, I know that's Johanna. Looks like it, talks like it, but it's not me, right? It's probably a part of my soul. So you have to remember, from the macro, we came in with fragmentation. And then fragmentation just gets bigger as we have this life experience. And we're meant to do the same thing that consciousness is doing. It's to observe our reality, observe the aspects of self, and start calling them back in. And like the Chinese bowls where that gets welded back together, we're basically sewing our consciousness back in. We're alchemizing it. We're accepting it into our heart space, and we're becoming one with it. So when there's an ego death, if there was something going wrong with your organ, right? If your liver went into liver failure or had some type of liver disease, all of your life force energy, all of your other cells, all of your energy is going to go right to that liver. And it's go, we have to create harmony because the body is out of homeostasis. It's out of harmony. So we have to bring all this energy in there, and we need to reconcile it. We need to make it in harmony again. And so while that's happening, the rest of the body is not operating. It's not receiving what it needs, right? So again, as the human body begins to die, all of its life force energy goes back into its heart. And so it's loving, it's vibrant, it has energy, it's different, it's at peace with itself. And then the body can, then it can cross. So the same thing happens with ego aspects, right? We have to allow that aspect to trust us, to get close to us, so that it will allow us to drive the bus. For those of you that went through Unity, Unity is a course I offer, an experience I offer. It's also in the Self Mastery Academy. The unity really was the precursor to this. And unity, what I taught was teaching all of these aspects of self that we got to get on the bus and at least head in the same direction, right? It's like, again, you don't have to agree with me, but I trust you enough to get on the bus and go that way. I'm probably going to bitch and complain the whole time. I'm probably still going to tell you what my fears are. I'm probably still going to tell you what my doubts are, but I'm on the bus. You're not going to experience that heavy snapback. We're going in that direction. Now, when we get into that space where you've gotten those parts of you and you're all going in the same direction, now you can begin to get to know it. Now you can begin to reconcile it. So let me share with you. Let me know if this resonates, you guys. Angela says, one of the best courses I've taken. Yay, thank you. Thank you for that. It was. I put myself through it enough times. It was a good course. So let me share with you some personal stories about this, because now you're familiar with what parts work is. We all have it. We all have, this is the part of us that gets triggered, the part of us that feels pain. There's these aspects of self, right? Our kids trigger us. There's an aspect of self. Our spouse triggers us. There's an aspect of self. Our parents trigger us. There's another aspect of self. So how does this affect your everyday life, right? Someone like me, I've done the work. I teach the work. And I'm forever a student. I'm forever a student first. You always teach what you're here to master. Have you ever noticed that? It's not that the person teaching you is a master. It means they're on the path of mastery. They're continuously teaching and reinforcing the same patterns and beliefs, the same ideals in order to master it in this life. This is what the ascended masters did. Right? This is what Jesus did. This is what all the ascended masters did. They practiced. They had a practice. They cultivated it, and they did it every single day. Even when they were teaching it, they still were the student practicing it every single day. They weren't perfect. And so here I was judging myself, giving myself a really hard time about who I was, because I was out here teaching this stuff and the shit was still happening to me in my life. I was still going on the merry-go-round. I was still having the same, not the same issues, but similar issues. I was still having, certain aspects were still showing up. I wasn't breaking through. And I began to feel like I was a fraud. And I thought, why do I feel like a fraud? And it was because I wasn't perfect. It was because I wasn't doing what I teach. I wasn't being the change in every moment, right? I knew the work and I was doing the work that I teach, but I wasn't doing it consistently. And every time something like this happened, I would be like, oh, I know better. I know what this is. I would brush it off. I wasn't really turning to it, making the eye contact and saying, I got you. I got you. You got my attention. You don't have to keep calling in the same relationships. You don't have to keep calling in the same asshole people. You don't have to keep having this money problem show up. You don't have to keep having this issue with the school with my kids show up. You don't have to mirror that back to me in my external reality anymore, because I got you. I see you. I'm facing you right now. You got all my attention. So here I was sitting with this, and I started really doing the work. I started really spending way more time on myself than on my followers or my community members or my clients or my kids or my significant other or anyone. I turned all my conscious awareness towards me, and I said, I'm going to see all sides now. For me personally, like I said, I've done a huge amount of inner child work, right? I have done a lot of past life work. And I mentioned this in one of my other webinars, but I'm going to mention it again here. I didn't go into what I call my dark lives. I went through lives where I was burned at the stakes for speaking my truth. I went through lives where I was a priestess, or I was someone who was important. I went through those aspects. But I never faced my dark lives. In fact, it never even dawned on me. And not everybody is going to have it to this extreme. So please don't take what I'm saying so literally, okay? It never even dawned on me that I could have dark within me, which is crazy because if you were to look at my chart, you guys know I'm into human design, which is advanced astrology. I was pretty confident coming into this life. Like, she had a lot of belief in her. She was like, you can do it. Let me give her all the fears of death. Let me give her all the fears of failure. Let me put them all in her path. You look at my chart and you'd be like, you really believed in you. You really believed in you. I believed in me. I believed I could do this. Not only that, but I have Lilith, the goddess of the dark, 0 degree, in my wounded healer, in the Chiron. How would I not have any dark lives when I have a strong connection with Lilith? Not only that, but I also, 2 of my guides, one is Agni, who is the fire god, and the other one is Kali Ma. Again, dark energy. I had all these queens of the dark in my chart and in my consciousness that I had used, by the way, in healings, but never really went to the root of where I got that power. So it was through my mentorship with a teacher. I hired somebody for the first time since the beginning of my journey. And I thought I was coming to her for something else. What I came to her for was to face my dark. And while she introduced that to me, it was my process that integrated it. It was my process of facing it that integrated it. And I went through a process, which I don't have time to go into here, but it will be a resource that I will give you access to. You will be able to, if you want to learn it. I went through a process where I observed the life. I then got into first person of that life. I reconciled that life. And then I received the gifts of that life. I had to face who I was when I was more in the first stage of consciousness, which is the me, all about me. I have to take to sustain what I desire, right? Again, this is, if you go back and watch my Desire to Manifest webinar, you'll learn more about this. But I had to face what it is. And I faced some crazy stuff, you guys. I had no idea I was a vampire in another lives. I had no idea that I did human trafficking. I had no idea that I was an electrocutioner and that I hurt people, that I did things that were for an agenda, that were out of alignment, that I was doing to obtain power, to obtain wealth, to obtain status, to inflict pain. I'll tell you a cool one, because when I integrated the life as the executioner, I received, every time I went through a reconciliation process, once I came into neutrality with it, I would receive an activation. I could feel it. My crown would start tingling. I would receive this activation. I was receiving the gifts of that life to use for the light side, I guess you could say, right? To use for the greater good, for me, for you, for us. Right? It wasn't just for me. I wasn't just doing the wounded healer for other people. I was doing for me, for them, for you, for us. I was serving the whole with this. So I received that activation, right? And I received the power back. I restored that power. And it was like 2 weeks later, my girlfriend messages me and she's got something going on in her house. And there's a person in her house, not to divulge her story, but the person was under mind control and was doing things that could put her into danger. And I sit down she asked for help. I sat down and I just connected with her home and her energy and everything. And immediately I started wrapping these electrical currents around this person, which was blocking the mind control, which was allowing him to reclaim his power, which was allowing him to see what was happening and step back into his sovereignty. And I was like, what am I doing? This is so freaking cool. This is so cool. but I wouldn't have been able to receive that power and use it to help had I not gone back and reclaimed, faced what I had done in another life, saw it for what it was, reclaimed it, called that part of my energy back and said, this is me. This is a version of me. I may not like what I did, but I still love me, right? Because we always love. We're loved because we're loved because we're loved. We may not like ourselves in moments. We might not like other people in moments, but we always love ourselves, and we always love those people. And so I may not like what I did in that life, but it served a purpose. There was a reason, right? And again, this goes back to understanding how consciousness itself evolves, right? It starts in that victim mentality. It starts in blame. It starts in separation. It starts in contrast. You can't have a desire unless you've been in the contrast. You would have no idea that you desired something if life was just gravy train. So I had to see that aspect of myself. I had to reclaim it, call it in close, get to know it, make peace with it. Then I could receive the gifts. I also had to do this with crib trauma and womb trauma, because there were things that happened to my mom when I was in her room that created separation and conflict before I had a conscious awareness of it. Right. And so there's a process for doing that. It's more energetic versus visual or audio. I had to go back and reconcile times where it was in the crib, where I was so young, where I was helpless and powerless and at the mercy of other people. Right. I had to reclaim those aspects of myself that in those moments I pushed away. And as a child, right, as a very young child, going through this process, I uncovered that I had sexual trauma. I'm not really ready to talk about this publicly yet, so I'm just going to leave it at that. That I had not remembered before. Okay, I knew that I had other sexual traumas, which I have spoken about. I have been sexually assaulted several times. It wasn't those. This was, I was helpless. I was an innocent child, and this was happening to me. And so I had to face that. And that means when I started getting that kind of stuff, when I started being able to easily integrate those other versions of my life, which we would call the bad lives or dark lives, and these other aspects of me were starting to feel safe enough to show up and say, she's ready. She can handle this now. We can show her the heavy stuff. We can let her hold space for this part and reclaim this part of ourselves, right? So this is when you guys, this is advanced teaching, because now you're getting down into the nitty gritty. I call our body the well. So you're down at the bottom of the well. You've hit the bottom. It's a sludge. It's slimy. It's sticky. It's thick, right? But now you're at the root of it. You're at the base, baby. You're down there. And this is when the big heavy stuff, the roots are pulled up. These are when the roots are pulled up. So I was able to make peace with those things. Now, all of this has been happening behind the scenes over the last 6 to 8 months. I've really been reconciling, really been working with this process, really been making peace with those parts of myself. And a couple of weeks ago, actually about a month ago, I started noticing that one of my guides, her name is Ashana Kia. She is a ninth dimensional Pleiadian aspect, was showing up more. When I was doing the October energy update, I was crying on camera. Whenever I connect with the ninth dimensional Pleiadians, it's such an overpowering of the heart, an overpouring of the heart that it's not about sadness or weakness. It's about so much love is coming out of me. I am literally purging on that spot. I'm literally crying because there's so much love overflowing. It's pushing any excess out. And so I noticed in that live that she was there, that the ninth dimensional Pleiadian collective was really strong, and that she was really strong. She was coming through really strong. And I started noticing that everything I did, she was there. It wasn't like I was just channeling the Galactic Federation or the Ancients, or the Arcturians or the Alpha Centaurians or the Mantis Collective, whoever was showing up that day. There was a consistency. She wasn't leaving. So I was noticing that. I was also noticing that things were changing. I was starting to see in my meditation, instead of a sunset every day, I was seeing a sunrise, which gave me the clue that something was on the horizon, something new was coming, something new was happening. And I could feel it. I could literally feel that there was something happening within me. And I was like, I don't know what's going on here. And then it happened. The day arrived, and it was like she was there, and she's like, we're gonna come into union. I'm a fragment of you. I'm a fragment of you. I am not a guide for you. I've been a guide for you, but I'm an aspect of you. And most of our consistent guides are aspects of self, you guys. Okay? You're going to channel and bring in guides and connect with guides that are not aspects of self. But your core guides, the ones that you feel around you the most, those are aspects of you. So she showed up. And in order to integrate her, I had to go back to a childhood wound that I hadn't seen yet. And as a child, I remember every time I was in a car, I just stared up at the moon. I stared up at the moon, and that felt like home. My home didn't feel like home. Other people's houses didn't feel like home. I definitely didn't feel at home in my body. Nothing felt at home. But when I looked at the moon, when I connected with the moon, I felt at home. I felt like I didn't belong. I literally felt like, why am I here? Earth is ghetto. I don't belong here. Well, before I ever knew what it meant to be awake, right? Because I was very open most of my life. I followed Sylvia Brown most of my life. How many 13-year-olds do you know subscribe to the Gnostic Christian services of Sylvia Brown? I was all about the spirituality before I even knew what the hell was happening. I was always more in tune, right? That's how you know generally you're a starseed, because you're always kind of already on that path. You may even know if you're not really aware of it. There's some type of subconscious current that's running. So anyway, that's what would happen to me as a child. I would stare up. I never felt like I belonged. I never felt like I fit into any clique or any circle. I was a chameleon. I was able to blend in where I needed to. I was able to become whoever somebody needed me to be. I never knew who I was, because I was like, yeah, this isn't my home. This body is not my ship. It's not my jam. I don't know why I'm here. This sucks. This is, I want to go home. This is a victim thing. I don't want to be here. Why am I here? I felt that way my whole life, but as a child, especially. And so I had to go back and reclaim her. I had to reconnect to her. I needed her to know that I saw her, that she was at home with me, that she did belong, that she was loved, that I saw her, that I knew she was there, that I loved her, that I wanted to make her feel safe. And once I did that, I started to purge. Literally in the middle of this interaction with Ashanakia, I'm starting to purge. I'm starting to go through all of these things. And I started making all this space, and she started taking me on this journey. And at the end of the journey, I had become one with her. I spent the next 2 days. Let me tell you, for one, I'm jumping ahead. When I tell you that I saw things differently, I'm not kidding. It was like somebody gave me new eyes. It was like I received new eyes. Everything that I could see with my eyes open and with my eyes closed, everything I was tapping into, no matter how bad or good it was, I saw it in the most magical, loving way. I get emotional just thinking about it. I saw it. It was like somebody putting on rose-colored glasses, and everything just was perfect. No matter what was happening, everything was perfect. So after that happened, I went through 2 days of heavy emotional purging, and I have a process for that that's pretty simple and easy. And then I had about 4 days where I felt on top of the world. I woke up in the morning and I was like, life is amazing. Everything is beautiful. It's pouring outside. It's gorgeous. Like, This is the closest thing I have ever experienced to true joy, right? Because on a side note, like I posted today, that's the true thing we really fear. We fear getting it right. We fear the success. We fear the true joy. Why? Because we're afraid we won't be able to sustain it. We haven't built a strong enough structure to sustain and hold that bandwidth of joy. And so we brace for impact, or we believe that the other shoe is going to drop and it's all going to go away. So why bother trying, right? And we listen to the fear personalities and we listen to the protector personalities who remind us that we did this before and we failed. So why are we going to try again? Why do you want to experience that joy? Why do you want to have all that money? Why do you want to have all those desires? Only thing that's going to happen are bad things. The minute you get all the good, all the bad's going to come right back. The shoe's going to drop. It's going to be all that work was for nothing. You just wasted my time. I mean, this is the stories that play inside of you. They played inside of me. So 4 days on top of the world, experienced the most intense joy I've ever experienced in my life over mediocre things that most people would not get excited about or celebrate. I celebrated it. I was like, this is amazing. Then we entered into phase 3, which is the physical purge. Where do you hold the majority of your fears? You hold the majority of your fears in your teeth and in your kidneys. Yeah. So I had to have a tooth pulled. I had to have a tooth pulled. That was an important tooth. It could not be saved, was not fixable. It had to be gone. It had to come out. And followed that up with a kidney infection, which led to a UTI. And so I had to go through the physical purge. I had to go through the physical discomfort, the physical pain, because all that had already manifested and developed that I released in order to make space for this big, giant, beautiful aspect of me to be integrated, I had to make the emotional space. I also had to make the physical space. And then you come out the other side and you're given new pathways. And you have everything you need to make a new decision from a new place. The only thing left is the action, is to step into the new program, to step into the new pathway. When I integrated my dark lives, I immediately tripled my monthly income. I immediately released so much physical pain from my body. I dropped about 30 pounds of physical weight. I go through fluctuations now because of my lymphatic system and aspects of self that I'm still working on integrating, because this work's never done. You don't ever get healed. I hear people say, oh, I don't ever get triggered. And I think you might not get triggered to the way that maybe someone who's still really in the trenches of their work does. But when you try to say that you don't have any more challenges in life and that you're not faced with obstacles and things for you to respond to, you're full of shit, because you wouldn't be here anymore. So if a teacher ever tells you that, your BS radar should go off, because you wouldn't be here. If you had no more lessons to learn and nothing else to respond to and nothing else to overcome, you would go back to being a soul. You would leave your physical body. You wouldn't be here anymore. So remember that. The point is to learn the tools to reclaim the counterintuitive parts of you, the contrasting parts of you, the parts of you that don't want you to move forward because they don't want you to be in pain. They don't want you to be hurt. They want to protect you. It's coming from a genuinely loving place. But they're misguided because they don't trust you. They don't trust that you know what's best for them. They don't trust that you are going to be okay without them. It's like the overbearing mother. Like, Mom, give me some space. I'm fine. Right? that aspect's like, no, you're not fine. You're going to screw up again. So they're constantly hovering. They're constantly reminding us of our shortcomings. So we want to reclaim and make peace with those aspects of self so that we can feel whole. So that when we make a decision, we're like, this is it. I can feel my intuition. I know this is it. And then those voices come in and you know what to do. You know how to talk to it. You know how to make friends with it and get it to trust you enough to sit back in the back seat and take a freaking chill pill until it becomes one with you again. You master these tools. So many times people will take courses. They will take experiences. They will hire the coaches. They will do all the things. They will learn all the stuff. They will just go through the content like, I got this. I'm just going to power through it. I'm going to learn all the stuff. And then they don't put it into practice. You make the most progress in your life when there's chaos. When everything's falling down, when everything's triggering you, when everything seems to be going wrong, when you're being pulled in 25 directions, that's when you need your tools the most. That's your practice for the big game. That's your everyday life and everyday triggers of someone cutting you off, of your kids triggering you, of your spouse triggering you, client triggering you, person at the grocery store triggering you, what you're seeing on TV triggering you. Those are aspects of yourself that are showing up going, owie, 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 has an alarm system. This is a past hurt. Oh, cue in the protector personalities. Let me course correct this. Let me protect her. Let me protect him. But when that's happening, that's when you use your tools and you're like, no, I know what to do now. I'm going to practice it and practice it and practice it until it becomes automatic. It's like when you're cooking, right? You get a new recipe. You're like, these are all the ingredients. Oh, I never made this before. I'm going to measure everything perfectly. A cup of this, a tablespoon of that, a cup of this, 3/4 of a cup of that. And then after about the 4th or 5th time of making it, you're more like, nah. And then you make it a few more times. You're like, let me add in this. Let me try mixing this in. Now you're making it your own, but you're no longer looking at the recipe. But what made that meal? Its roots, its bones, its foundational pieces were built on a recipe. And I want to help you have that recipe. So I have created an experience called Reclamation. And this is where we will be guiding you through reconciling, reclaiming and reconciling all parts of you. I'm going to be teaching you my secret sauce of how I do this, not just with inner children, not just with past lives, not just with galactic lives, but with all aspects, my fear personalities, my protector personalities. And as they show up, I get excited. I'm like, in the moment it sucks, right? You're like, but you're like, oh, guess what? I got a new person to meet, a new aspect of myself to get to know. And I teach you how to get to know that aspect, how to make friends with that aspect. So that aspect will trust you. Because here's the thing, right? In order to have balance in our life, in order for your money line to flow, in order for you to hold that big success, to hold those millions of dollars, to hold that man or woman that you want in your life, to hold that energy, your container has to be strong AF. It's got to be strong AF. It's got to have no holes in it. It's got to be really built well. That's your masculine, right? So you got to have a strong structure in place that's going to be able to sustain the flow. And the flow is your emotional body. It's your intuition. It's your higher knowing. It's the communication, right? You're creating a channel, a bridge between you and that aspect. And it is in the creating of that safety and allowing for that information to flow that you can now begin to clean or purify those waters. I call it the purification process. And this is something that I normally only teach in private mentorship, right? When people hire me for 3 or 6 months. This is the only time I normally do this type of work because it's been so specific. But I have noticed a certain patterning showing up in all of my clients. It's the same patterning that I was working on with myself. And so I started extracting those parts and saying, I can make this into a do-it-yourself experience so that you're not paying $3,000 or $6,000 to work with me privately. You can take this experience, you can learn these tools, you can practice them, you can be in my energy, you can receive the energetic pieces to help guide you through these journeys that you'll be taking with parts of yourself. So you have the template. I'm giving you the roadmap. I'm giving you all the tools. So you don't have to go and hire 6 different experts. You can apply these tools to these other aspects of life. And you can begin to not just reclaim those parts of your soul so that you end the inner conflict, but also to receive the gifts. To receive the gifts. Let me take a drink. And I'm going to get to questions in just a minute. So if you have questions, pop them in. I'll do the ones I'm drawn to. Okay. So over this process, I'll be sharing with you the same 4 frequencies that I used in Unity, right? These are my secret sauce frequencies. We're going to be using them in a different way. I'm going to be taking you into really understanding the deeper meaning of those frequencies, how to recognize, how to get to know these aspects of self, how to really understand what they are, how to spot them very easily, how to get to know them, like I said, and then we're going to go into the deep work of how to integrate them. We're going to go into how to do this with past lives. We're going to go into how to do this with galactic or angelic aspects that show up for you, right? So you can summons it. We can show you how to summons it, but the goal is for you to learn how to do it when it's fresh. Because when you're in the trigger, you guys, when you're in the trigger, that's when all of that energy is the most potent and the most available and the most ready to be alchemized. Okay. And so it's not about, let me do this work when the kids are listening, when I have the time, when I can meditate, when I can be alone. That's great. And you can summons that energy. You can call that aspect of you back, but it's not going to be full power. It's not going to have everything. But when you're triggered, when somebody is activating that, when they're pushing your button and bringing that up from the bottom of your well up so you can see it, that is when it's the most potent time to alchemize it and integrate that aspect of self. And then understand the 4 phases of what's going to happen. Because when you're integrating, you can really easily think it's an echo, or you can think that it is not working, when really you just didn't understand the 4 phases that follow an integration. All right. And you'll know when you're healing because, and I've said this before, but I'm going to say this again. When you look back at the perpetrators of your life with freaking gratitude, I am so thankful my mom left me at 3 years old. I think I was 3, because now I get to, I am the best mother I can be because I know what it was like to not have a mother. I know what it was like to be abandoned and rejected. I am so grateful that she did that. She showed me in those moments, she showed me that she had to choose herself because she needed to heal. She had things that she needed to work on, and she could not give me attention. She could not give me what I needed. She could not meet those needs. She had to choose herself in that moment and take care of herself and heal herself so that she could be the best version of herself that she needed to be. Now, is it fair and does it suck? No, it's not fair. And yes, it does suck, right? But I don't harbor any resentment about it now. I don't, because I would not be who I am if the experience. How can you love yourself if you hate the experiences that built you? How can you do that? I can look back at my dad dying at 56 years old, who was my life. Anybody who's followed me for any length of time knows how an impact my dad's death had on me. I watched him die in front of my eyes, my hero. But I spent so much time being angry with him and angry with God because I was like, you took somebody who loved me unconditionally away. You took away my only person. But I didn't realize I also had me. And that all that love that I had given him, I just needed to reclaim and give it back to myself. And I also wouldn't be who I am today without that happening. My mediumship wouldn't have opened up. I wouldn't have been able to start channeling. I wouldn't have been able to appreciate life in a new way where I see that at any moment in time, the very people you love the most could be gone in a physical form. While we know there's no death, there is also death. And so now when somebody gets sick or something happens, instead of trying to fix it and overcorrect or repress it and hide and shut down, I can just live and appreciate the life that they have left. I wouldn't have known to do that if I hadn't gone through this. I can appreciate and have gratitude for the men who sexually assaulted me because I know what it feels like to be powerless. I know what it feels like to feel like you have no recourse, that you are completely helpless. I'm able to help women or men who have been in similar situations. I wouldn't have been able to connect with some of the most beautiful souls I've ever met before working on these things had I not gone through that. I wouldn't appreciate my own body the way that I do had I not gone through that. I've been to the top of making tons and tons of money and having multiple six figures in my bank account, and I've gone where I've had a negative account, where I was literally broke, bankrupt, nothing. I can understand both aspects of it. I can appreciate when I had the money. I can see how I went wrong, what I did wrong, that I wasn't able to sustain that kind of money yet, that I wasn't able to hold that frequency yet. So the next time that I get to a space where I'm running, 7, 8 figures, I'll know I'm able to sustain that now. I'm able to sustain it now. I know I have awareness that I didn't have before. You can't have today's awareness without yesterday's mistake. Something you'll hear me say over and over again, because it's just the truth. If you're not failing, you're not trying, right? If you're not growing, you're dying. This work is important, especially as we make this great activation comes in December into January. So it's a window of time where this activation is going to take place. It's not one single day like a lot of people are making it out to be. That is the portal alignment. That's the energetic alignment that allows for this activation, for those frequencies to come in. But this is going to take over a 4 or 5 week period of time. This is when the activations are going to be happening. This is what they were considering the great activation. This is when billions of people are going to wake up. And some may wake up slowly, some may wake up quickly with the Kundalini. Some people, it might just be seeding the activation. It's going to happen on all new levels. But those of you who are on the path, those of you who are feeling the pressure to step into service, who are feeling the pressure to finally take some big action in their business or to show up, that doesn't mean you're a healer and teacher like me. No matter what you're doing, if you're being called into service, you're feeling that pressure, you're asked to show up differently. No matter what you're doing, whether it's being a school teacher or yoga instructor, or a person like me that's on a camera guiding women, or maybe you're just somebody that guides your family. It all begins with you leading yourself. If that's all that you're doing your part. But this means that we have to begin to face and reclaim those aspects of self. We need to come into harmony with ourselves. We need to come into neutrality with ourselves. And that's called reconciliation, coming back to the 0 point. And in doing so, we make so much space for the divine to flow through us, for us to really know our divine path, which way to go, what to step in. We start enjoying the journey. We start knowing that everything we have in this moment is enough. We're not looking to do something, to obtain something, to get to something. There's no more agendas. There's no more any of that stuff. What you're doing is to serve you. It's to serve them. It's to serve the whole. My academy, it supports me, so it serves me. I'm serving other people. I'm guiding other people through something to help master themselves. And then it's going to affect the whole, because they're going to go out and become a ripple. They're going to go out and take the bones of my teachings, make it their own, and become the light that guides another through their storm. And this is why I have two options for you today. So if you're interested in even learning more about what reclamation holds and contains, what kind of things we're going to be doing, Corey's going to drop a link, and she's my manager. She will drop a link, and she will allow you to go to the landing page and read all about it. If you're already in the Self-Mastery Academy, this course, like I said, I've already recorded 2 modules. It will be coming out this week. It will be uploaded into the Academy this week. If you want to be a part of the Academy, the Self-Mastery Academy, it's 25% off right now. So 25% off per month. So you can save 25% by signing up, and you will receive this course in there as well. In the Self-Mastery Academy, we have over $10,000, not more, with this course in there. It holds all my past events, all my classes that I've ever held. Even I'm still finding new ones that I haven't ever posted that I'm going to be adding in. It holds all my transmissions, and it holds every single course and experience I've ever held, except for one, which will be re-recorded and put out next month at some point. So this is reclamation. This is the last things you need to heal in your life. This is the tools and the methods that are going to bring you back into wholeness. And so whether you want to take this information that I've shared with you right now and run with it, then do it. Take the nuggets that you have received from this and get the books, do whatever you got to do, but do the work. If you want to, if you don't resonate with me and you want to find another person who does something like this, do it. Do the work. This isn't necessarily about me, and it's not necessarily about you. It's about me, you, and the whole. So you doing your work, however which way you need to do your work, serves me. It serves the whole. If you want me to be your guide, I would love to. And you can, like I said, you can join Reclamation and get instant access. You'll be brought into it, and the course will be uploaded. If you want to get all the goods, if you want to go back through Unity first, if you want to get all the goods from all the stuff I've ever done, you want to go through the full experience, you want to get your master's degree in you, then you can join the Self-Mastery Academy. Like I said, it's 25% off. You can use the code Mastery25. So let me, I don't know where my mouse is. Let me go back and look at some of these comments. Kelly says, I feel like they may be trying to speak with me because I found you, but I'm just learning. Good. How do you know who your guides are and how to listen? That takes discernment. Knowing who your guides are is discernment. That's more of spiritual development. Here's what I'll tell you. You don't need to know their names. We give them their names. We give them the names. You do it through spiritual development. So the most thing that you need to do right now, the one thing that I can give you guys right now, this was something that I shared in my Facebook group, I think. Sitting in meditation, okay? 20 minutes, silence, no music playing, no guided meditation. You guys, I have these honking lawnmower headphones that you'd go to like the NASCAR race that go over my ears. I also put the little thingies in your ears, and then I put the big honking ones over my ears, and then I put on an eye mask when I meditate. I go into complete sensory deprivation. I go completely inside of myself. I shut out all external noises and things, so I can literally only hear my heartbeat. And then you're going to start hearing all your fragments showing up. All your personalities are going to start talking, and you're going to start discerning who's who. This sounds like a protector personality. This sounds like my ego. This sounds like a child who is very hurt. This is a quiet, soft, loving voice that I barely hear. Let me tune into that a little more. There, you found your intuition. Maybe you hear an aspect, you hear communication or feel communication and get communication. You're like, it sounds like my own voice, but it doesn't speak the way I do. It knows things that I don't really know, right? So it's about learning and discerning. And you do that through presence and awareness and consistency. It's not fun. Most people go through the parts work with me and then they step into spiritual development with me. So I take you from, that's the unique thing about me and my journey, right? My audience is huge, from people who are just waking up to people who are on the mastery level. I take you from the ground up. I'm not a top-down teacher. I pull you up by your roots. I shake out all the loose shit. We clear that channel. And then all of a sudden it just starts flowing in, right? So doing this work, you'll become clearer. You'll hold more light. You'll become more in tune with those aspects. This is why we always want to do this type of work first. When you jump in, I did it the opposite way. And this is why I teach it the way I do. When all my senses came on at once, I jumped right into spiritual development immediately. How do I use this shit? How do I use these gifts? Who are my guides? Who are these things that are talking to me? Who are these things that I'm feeling? I always say I could bounce. My bed could have been one of those quarter beds, where you put a quarter in and the bed shakes, vibrates. Remember those way back in the day? Some of you probably have no idea what I'm talking about. You'll see them in horror movies a lot, But I had these galactic beings coming around me, and the energy was it was vibrating higher than my personal vibration. And so my whole body would literally convulse and shake, and my bed would shake. And my husband would look at me when we were still together, and he'd be like, "What the fuck is happening?" Excuse my language. What is happening to you? So I went right into spiritual development. But here's the thing. The more aware you become of the spiritual realm and the spiritual development, when you haven't made the space, what you're doing is you're turning on a faucet full speed. You're ripping open that hose full speed, and it's going in there. It's just hitting. It's hitting all your density, all your blocks, all your limitations, all your fears. It's hitting it because it's wanting to channel through. You opened that door. You said, "Spirit, come in and talk to me." And that's what I did. And it was painful. I had massive ascension symptoms. I had massive headaches. I had lots of health problems because I had turned consciousness, the stream of consciousness, on full speed, invited all them into party, and I hadn't made space inside of myself to contain it. And so it had to bulldoze and hit and pound my wounds and make a pathway. And it was painful. So I teach from the ground up. I say, let's create the channel. Let's clear the debris. And now you don't have to do anything to connect with spirit because you're so open. You've made so much space. The divine is just naturally flowing through you. But discernment is a good practice. So meditate for 20 minutes a day. Get consistent with the timing. So it doesn't have to be exact timing, but get consistent. Every morning after this is when I meditate. Go sensory deprivation, block out any noise, any visual aspects, and completely go into yourself and start listening to the aspects, listening to the voices without judgment and discerning who's who. Are they quiet? Are they loud? So good question. Oh, good luck today, Angela. Yeah, this live's going a little over than as long as I wanted to, but that's typical for me. Angela says, where do you sign up for the new experience? Corey has dropped the link. You can check out Reclamation below or the Self-Mastery Academy. Hi, Carissa. Thank you. Let's see. Corey says Sylvia Brown is the first medium that I started to follow, and I have some of her books as well. She was so amazing. Yeah, there's a lot of people that actually discredit her, but I don't care. I loved her. I absolutely loved her. Thank you, Elizabeth. She says, what I'm teaching is brilliant. I love that. Thank you. Christine, my love. Hi. Annette says, Unity is excellent course for sure. Helped me so much learn how to work through all parts of me. Thank you. Awesome. Yeah, for those who have already taken Unity, this would be your next step. You don't have to take Unity to do this, but if you're not familiar with parts of yourself, then I would suggest going into the Academy and doing Unity first. Absolutely. Hi, Jenny. Awesome. All right. Let's see. I don't think we have any other comments. Let's see if we have anything new. Any other questions? Lori says, so thankful for the tools that you gave me and caring for my energy. Oh, thank you. That's awesome. So you guys, just to wrap up, Do the work. This is the work we're here to do, man. This is it. We got to face some stuff. We're not triggered by things we see on TV or other people or experiences for no reason. There's something to it. And maybe there's a wound there. Maybe you were the perpetrator at another time there. You just don't know. But not knowing isn't the answer. Ignorance is not bliss. It's not. I know it seems that way, but it's not. It creates division. It creates separation. It creates sheephood. You're placing your power outside of you when you do that. And so it's time that we take ownership of ourselves. It's time that we take responsibility for ourselves, because where we're going in the new earth and the way that the new earth is going to be run in a few years, if you're not governing yourself, if you're not completely reliant on your own trust and intuition, you're going to be in some trouble. And I don't say that to trigger you or to scare you. I say it in a way of, this is your warning. It's time to get it together. It's time to do the work. It's time to learn to trust yourself. It's time to learn to discern. It's time for you to figure it out and to have the tool belt ready to go and practicing it already and being prepared. And if you are ready to go on to that even next step, using these tools to guide other people along, to be the next light for the next ship that is out to sea in the dark with 60-foot waves, feeling like it's about to get swallowed by their own darkness. And then they look up and there's this beautiful bright light shining, saying, I made it. I made it. You can do it too. Let me show you. Watch what I do. Whether that's for your kids, for clients, for a whole community, for the whole world, it doesn't matter really. You have to lead yourself. You got to be the change. So if you're called to join me for reclamation, again, there's a link. You can check it out. If you're called to get your master's degree in you and to really dive into the Self-Mastery Academy, including this experience, then you can get 25% off right now with code Mastery25. All right. So I hope this served you. I hope you guys took nuggets from this. I hope that you were able to take information away that you can run with. That's always my first priority, is always to create impact and to give you nuggets that you can take into your life and to what you're already doing. I hope I was able to do that for you. And if you resonated with this, if this is something that spoke to you, feel free to share it. Or if you're on YouTube, like and subscribe, because I do this from time to time. I give these big, beautiful master classes or webcasts and give as much as I possibly can to help your soul evolve. So I love you guys, and I will see you next time.